Hi, my name is Peggy LaPointe, and this is Talking Trash, a Green Tips podcast. A chance for me to dive into the world of environmental issues by talking to people in business, government, and nonprofits. You know, those folks knee-deep in the field of sustainability. Episode 6 features Brion Hurley, president of the nonprofit Recycling Advocates. It's been around for about 30 years. 1987. And it was founded by Jean Roy. And anyone in the recycling sustainability world knows the name Jean Roy.
Mm-hmm. Another Wonder Woman person
a force
in Portland.
To be reckoned with. And she recently stepped down from all of the nonprofits, Northwest Earth Institute.
Yep.
How long was she involved with Recycling Advocates? She founded it.
Yep.
How long was she active for that? This whole 30 years?
I think the first 10 years, something like that. I've been trying to go back in history and piece together the different board members over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I found is, at least the first 6 to 10 years and somewhere. And then there's some people have taken over as president and others have been more like the chair. And then, so there's a little history, but she was involved from the beginning, at least for the first 10 years, pretty heavily, I believe.
And so Recycling Advocates, as I said, nonprofit, founded and started to become this grassroots group dedicated to sustainability, reduce, reuse, and recycle, and has been involved in a lot of advocacy and movement, the recycling and reuse movement. And waste reduction movement. I was looking at some of the accomplishments. I didn't realize that both Jeannie Roy and Recycling Advocates helped launch the Master Recycler program.
Yeah.
I'm class 28.
Okay.
And I'm
64.
I was going to say, I think it's in the 80s
at 70.
now?
Yeah,
70?
at least 70, I know.
Yeah.
I think it's 71 or 72 right now.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it is that 80s, though.
I think it's pretty close. And Master Recyclers obviously have been around for a long time. I took it this time of year 14 years ago. My son was 2. And it's an 8-week course where you really dive into what recycling is here in the Portland metro area, what can, what cannot, the laws behind it, where things go. You go on these great field trips, and then you are able to volunteer in the neighborhood. So that was neat to find out that Recycling Advocates have done that.
Yeah, what a great program. I mean, I've been in Portland 5 years now, and I think that's a big key to the success of, the focus around recycling is that education, to explain to people why the decisions are made that way. Because it's like, but this looks like plastic, or this is, why can't it be recycled? I feel like it can. And then you understand the rationale behind it and the thought process, and a lot of research and effort that went into figuring things out to say, this is the best thing we can do for our systems long term.
Right.
It makes a lot more sense. And then you can explain that to others who don't understand that.
Yeah, that was the fun part of the Master Recycler program, is going out and talking to people and explaining it in the volunteer hours. And then some of the other things that Recycling Advocates have done, and this is going way back, probably from the beginning, helped achieve weekly curbside service with the containers in the metro region. Again, that was Jeannie Roy getting that off the ground. Tell me some of the other accomplishments from Recycling Advocates.
Yeah, just a lot of hands in different activities happening from e-waste to plastic bag bans, and supporting or advocating for some of the programs or initiatives going along, getting out and trying to build support from the residents. I like to think of our group as kind of the voice for the residents in the community. So we get asked to participate in different activities through the city or through Metro, and try to bring some of that to the table. And so I think that's been really good. Our giving our input or our ideas or our feedback on ordinances or laws that are coming out, so people can understand. We don't have any backers, so to speak. We have individual contributors and donors, so we're not advocating for some other organization. So I think that gives us a lot of clout too, that we're coming in unbiased. It's just, hey, we're just local residents, and this is what we care about or what we want to see.
So anyone from the Portland metro area can volunteer or get involved with Recycling Advocates. And tell me some of the most recent examples of what you were just talking about, where recycling advocates have advocated for residents.
Sure. So we're actually a nonprofit through the state of Oregon.
Okay.
Most of our board is in Portland metro area. So realistically, that's where our reach is. And so we kind of look at that. In the future, I'd like to be able to expand and get out and either set up smaller chapters or figure out how we can better serve the wider state. But definitely we're focused right now primarily in metro area. So like currently, I guess our campaign is around Bring Your Own Cup.
Yeah, I saw that.
Coffee cups.
Yep.
Doing that a couple years now. We're starting to see some really good momentum with that. You know, the first year or two, it goes slow.
Yep.
And you're looking for the early adopters, and some of the shops have been great who jumped on board and said, yep, we agree, we want to support this. Yeah. And then like you saw with Karen's discussion that we weren't involved in their decision on that, but definitely when I heard that they were going to do that, yes, the charging for to-goes has been this thing that we've heard from our members is like, that is something that we think is going to actually make a difference for the average resident in Portland, that
absolutely
when they get charged for something, it starts to change the mindset versus the discount.
Yep. And you're talking about Karen Lichtag at Nosa Familia. And in my green tips, I've been advocating for a long time that changing behavior doesn't come with a 5-cent reward or 10-cent reward for bringing your cup. It's when you have to stop and think, oh, I'm being charged 25 cents.
Yep.
And the examples that Karen gave in the podcast that I had with her is, oh, I have my cup right in my purse. You know, it does make people think.
Even like to-go boxes with the Go Box system. And I know there's been discussions like if people were having to pay for the to-go container, they would think differently about the choices. And this plastic straws coming out and the ordinance around single-use disposable items. I think that's getting people to think, I have to request this. That's at least another step to...
It goes in the thought process.
Exactly.
Yep. And it makes you stop and think, do I need this? One of the other accomplishments that I saw, and I've been in Portland long enough to remember when it was enacted, was the styrofoam ban. I was working at a delicatessen at the time, but that was a big thing for the recycling advocates, is pushing that through. Now, you mentioned the electronics, the e-waste. Was recycling advocates involved in the Oregon e-cycles program, getting that? Because that's a statewide program.
I don't know to what extent, but we were either advocating for it or involved with putting out letters of support or recommendations for that. And then Betty Patton was our president for many years, and she was directly involved with, even in some of her consulting work, with working with facilities that were doing e-waste and ensuring that they were following the rules and laws that were put in place.
Right.
So there's definitely a lot of, I don't know all the details behind what our group was doing specifically, but.
And that's about, I think it's been around for 8-ish years. That's where, again, for listeners who aren't familiar with the Oregon e-cycles program, you can recycle up to 7 TVs, computers, laptops, monitors, and printers for free at hundreds of locations across the state. When I'm working at Metro and I'm explaining it to people, they're like, really? I had no idea. And I wish it was better known. But it is a great program. So the recycling advocates, the board members, and it's run by board members. You folks come from solid waste professionals, policy activists, local business people. What background do you bring as president to recycling advocates for this position?
My background is in process improvement.
Okay.
Working for an aerospace company. For many years. That's what brought me out to Portland as I transferred to another location in Wilsonville.
Okay.
So I didn't have that much background in recycling, other than when I started to get more into sustainability about 10 years ago. I had gone back and wanted to do some schooling. So I went back to Iowa, where I'm from, did some classes around, took some of their, they had a sustainability certificate program. And as part of that, I wanted to get involved with what was going on campus and apply some of my process improvement skills to some sustainability efforts. And I had an in with the school, so I did a project at the stadium, the football stadium there.
Okay.
And so that kind of got me into the recycling piece of it and understanding the logistics of a football stadium and the multiple contracts that are going on for, if it's in the parking lot, it's one company picks up, and if it's in the stadium, it's another company, and the athletic department and the city of Iowa City and the haulers and the recycling company and the security and the facilities. And so just all those stakeholders actually looked like a problem I'd worked at in my job. So it kind of fit nicely with that is you bring everybody to the table early on and you get them all engaged and get everyone's input. And then you come up with a solution that you get a lot of buy-in for. And
are you still at the aerospace company?
No, I've been doing my own consulting last year and a half now.
Consulting for?
Businesses around process improvement.
Okay.
It's under the umbrella of Lean or Six Sigma process improvement, but it's basically a methodology to structure your improvements versus just kind of random improvements here and there. You follow a specific pattern that other companies have used and been successful with.
You're the details person.
Yeah.
At Recycling Advocacy.
I have a statistics background and data analysis.
Exactly. That comes in handy.
Yeah. So, but I never really had a leadership position. So that was the challenge that I was concerned about a little bit. And I've always been a supporter or consultant, never like a manager or supervisor. But I wanted to practice some of the things I was teaching to other organizations about how to set a goal and minimize the other projects going on and build some infrastructure and have standard processes for things. So we don't have a lot of products and services, so to speak, in our nonprofit, but we do put out a newsletter and we do handle donations and we table at events and we go speak to coffee shops. And now we're putting on conferences.
Yes.
The Zero Waste Conference. Yep. So we're starting to build more structure, and I'm trying to figure out ways we can document what we're doing and have checklists and simplify and make things very easy for a volunteer to participate in.
Right. So let's go to the Zero Waste Conference. That took place in October at Tabor Space, which is on Belmont and 55th-ish. It was, you had 100 people, and you were telling me that there were another 100 on the waiting list. The next one is in April, I see.
Yep.
Tell me the idea behind the Zero Waste Conference. How did that come to be?
Yeah, so what we were kind of seeing was a lot of interest in zero waste movement.
A lot.
And so also I was seeing that in the business side. So there's a lot of companies that were going, claiming different things, whether it's zero waste to landfill or they just call it zero waste.
Yep.
Actually, speaking of the football project, I had actually went over and looked at Ohio State, who had a program, and they were calling theirs a zero waste, and they had criteria around what that meant to them in terms of diversion. And so I was seeing it from other aerospace companies at the time, seeing it in college campuses, and then what was really taken off was the kind of the lifestyle, personal decisions around, Betty Shelley's getting it down to one jar, and activities like that. And then through the one of the classes, the Agent of Change class, I met Chloe Lepelletier.
Yes.
And she and I had talked a little bit about recycling advocates, and I saw that she was doing a lot of stuff around zero waste. And so we got together and said, I think you got something going here that's really cool.
Yeah.
And it's totally in line with what we're trying to do. Even though our name is Recycling Advocates, it's always been kind of this discussion that we have every year. Is this the right name for us? Is that really what we're trying to drive? And we always go back to, yes, that's what people first resonate with, is they understand I need to recycle better.
Yeah.
And then we can get into the discussion of, well, why did you buy that in the first place?
Right.
And is there a better option, or can you reuse it or donate? And so I think it's a great starting point, the term recycling.
Yeah.
But when we look at what we're really trying to do is change the culture. So recycling is a last-ditch effort if I can't do everything else prior to that in the whole hierarchy of waste.
And there is a big movement around zero waste. Many individuals are speaking out and encouraging. And when I'm doing green tips or when I'm talking about zero waste, I mean, I'm not zero waste. There's a family of 4.
Nobody is actually.
Right. A family of 4. We have our garbage, but it's the mindset of what can I do better? And so that zero waste is out there, and it defines decisions that we make. And it's not necessarily the target, but it's pointing towards that.
Yeah.
Right. It's
perfection or something that is unachievable.
Right. And it's and so when I'm talking to people about zero waste, I don't want them to hear that and think if you're not zero waste, you failed, because that's not it. It's where can I reduce? And I'm looking at your backpack, and you've got one of those little grocery bags that I like too, that I stick in my backpack and go. And so it's those decisions of, maybe I can buy this instead of this because of the packaging.
We got into that discussion. Should we even call it the Zero Waste Conference?
Right.
Because it can be intimidating or feel like, oh, this is for people who are really far along and are getting to that 1 jar a year type of situation. And that's not the case for most people. It's almost like a zero waste journey that you're never going to get to, but it's something to keep striving towards, working, moving forward. And so even we had some discussions with the city about naming, and they wanted to make sure that the message isn't around finding all the outlets for recycling. It's to move it upstream and say, how do we make sure the discussions focus more on knowing the rules, and then making sure when you don't have a recycling option there, you're actually looking at different options and what is available there. So I think when we explain that part of it, that this isn't the as scary as it might seem, or as
not as
unachievable as it sounds like, it's actually, people can resonate that, okay, we're just trying to move in this direction, and that's kind of this
it's
vision.
a journey.
Even the businesses that get certified to zero waste through like the U.S. Green Building Council, that's like 90% diversion with no more than 10% of incineration. And so it's not even 100%.
Right.
And I think the Ohio State University was like 95% was what they're achieving. So that's what they're calling zero waste. So it's not even 100% that you're, and it's impossible to get there.
It's impossible to get there. So some of the folks that you had at the first Zero Waste Conference was Karen Lichtig, at No So Familiar, and you had Chloe and Betty Shelley, a friend of ours. This next one coming up in April, the location to be decided.
To be determined,
And
something larger so we can accommodate more people. We had to turn a lot of people away.
What are you looking for? Have you lined up some folks? We
have a good list.
I was going to say, I'm on Chloe's Zero Waste Lifestyle Web's Facebook page, and she was doing a shout out for people for ideas. But can you share any that you might have so far?
I think the No So Familia talk was very popular, so we're looking at a couple other businesses who could explain their journey and efforts and what they're doing. So we have a couple in mind there.
Great.
And then in terms of other speakers and topics, we're just kind of getting a broad list there, but it's a pretty good list. And so I think some of the other discussion is around what format will people want. There's some of the discussions around workshops, in terms of like, can I make my own of something instead of buying it?
Right.
That may not fit well into a conference unless you have things set up. So maybe there's more individual meetings or events that are focused around specific tasks like that we can promote throughout the year, instead of having a large conference and pick a day that maybe people aren't available. But so, the workshop format, and then is this around their personal home life? Is this zero waste at work that they can influence? Is it around getting a certification for their organization, or like sustainability at work, or some other green business certification? It can go into lots of different avenues. So I think part of it is trying to figure out who our customers are, and then trying to find out what they've requested and what they want to see. And so we did that as a survey, the first conference, and we still have things that we didn't address from there that we'll probably be pulling from, as well as other people have stepped up.
Good.
We've also have maybe some discussions around things outside of Portland that are going on internationally with plastics.
Right. That's a big thing.
information about what's happening in other countries. How is our usage impacting and showing up in other places?
Right.
So maybe that's an interesting topic. So we have a long list. If people have some ideas on things they'd like to see at a conference, please reach out. We're perfect time right now, either through the Zero Waste PDX Facebook page, or they can contact me through the website.
I'll make sure I have a link.
Okay.
When we do, when I post this interview. So right now, like you mentioned, the campaign for Bring Your Own Cup, as that is now 2 years in, are you thinking about the next campaign or the next piece of legislation that recycling advocates wants to work on, whether it's at the state level or the metro area level or even the city level? What are you looking at for the next thing?
And we talked about that too, is when do we kind of move to a new campaign? I think we're still at the point where we haven't hit like a critical mass yet.
Yep.
And so I think there's still a lot of work to be done on this campaign. So I think we're going to continue with that effort. I think we're seeing some positive signs coming through. There seems to be more interest from coffee shops to join.
Bigger ones? Like ones that were based out of Seattle?
We haven't approached them directly, just because it's difficult to get in there. They've, if they're interested in getting involved, that would be awesome. And the impact they could have. But also we're kind of using that with some of the local shops to say you can separate yourself and create a better customer experience and more loyalty by showing your commitment to sustainability.
And it's very Portland.
Yes.
Very
which
local.
Is what people want. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So
I think we're going to be doing the Bring Your Own Cup at least another year or two for sure.
Good. I signed the pledge last night.
Oh, thanks.
Even though I bring mine all the time.
We're just taking pledges online to kind of get people to formally commit to continuing to do that, or start bringing their own cup, or taking coming to the shop and dining in and drinking the cup there. So we're kind of working at twofold. One is on the coffee shop level, working with the shops to help them encourage all the behavior change that needs to happen, whether it's a discount or preferably charging for to-go, to reminder signs, and we give them window clings.
Oh, great.
To put in the door as people are walking in, like, oh, I have it in my car, let me go get it. To signs at the cash register.
Good.
And all those help. And if you have enough of those things in place, one of those is going to trigger that behavior change, or they're going to notice it and say, next time I'm going to do this. And so it's a multitude of things that have to be in place. It can't just be, well, we have a discount. That should magically make, 17% of the people start bringing them. That's not going to happen. You're going to get the standard 1 or 2% or whatever. Right.
So why don't you give a shout out to some of the coffee shops that are participating? Why don't you give me some of those names?
Yeah. So one of the first ones was Nectar Cafe in Hollywood. And they have been really supportive and on board and open to a lot of the ideas we had. And then they came up with their own ideas, like a reusable mason jar.
Perfect.
They started that over a year, maybe almost 2 years ago.
Good.
And then just kind of they're looking for other ways to do that, from, what the baristas say.
Yes.
And how they ask the question. Is this for here to go, or did you bring your cup today?
Perfect.
The way you ask that is also part of that whole behavior change.
Like that.
Yep.
The training of that.
Yep.
Well, that's awesome. Let's wrap things up with how folks can get involved with Recycling Advocates. You do a lot of volunteer work. You've got a board of directors. Tell us some ways that you could use volunteers.
Yep. So the most urgent need is planning for the next Zero Waste Conference.
Okay.
So we're looking for people to help in many different ways. That could be help with the planning. It could be organizing some of the speakers. It could be helping with logistics of sponsors and tables. It could be just wanting to help out the day of, or checking people in, or helping set up with AV equipment, or we can find a use for somebody who just wants to participate there. if you want to get involved with the Bring Your Own Cup campaign, we're looking for people who can go to coffee shops.
Yeah. If you've
talk
got
to
your
them, your favorite
shop,
one, and say, hey, I heard about this campaign. Have you guys heard about it? Even just helping give us an introduction.
Yeah.
So if they know it's coming from a customer versus just some random person that walks in, that means a lot because they know, hey, this person is always in here and they want to see this. Mm-hmm. That's what the businesses are going to pay attention to, is what their customers ask for. And so we as individuals have to start or continue to ask the businesses we support for the things that we want to see. Otherwise, they don't know that that's something their customers want.
And you've already got that relationship.
Yeah. Right. So that could be something. We also table at events and we talk to people about that these cups are not recyclable, and that's part of our contamination problem, is people are putting the cups, oh, it looks like paper, I'm going to put it in the recycling bin, and that causes problems with our contamination in our streams. And that, hey, there are the coffee shops, all of them will accept your own cup. That's not just coffee shop specific. Nope. And some will give you discounts and other incentives to do that. Yeah. So,
and even at the airport where I was over the weekend, they will take it as well.
They're really shocked at the airport because it's really rare there that people will take it through security and clean it and all that. So,
I surprised somebody at the Phoenix airport the other
day. Yeah, especially outside Portland Airport, they're really thrown off completely with a reusable cup, but they like it. They take it and they think it's cool.
They know it saves them money.
Yes.
So that's their bottom line. Well, Brion, thank you so much. I'll make sure I have the link for how people can get a hold of you and get involved. And then businesses can also get involved in the Zero Waste Conference, correct?
Yeah.
If they want to have a table at
we have tables, or we just have online supporters too. If you just want your logo and website associated with the conference,
they can reach out to you.
That'd be great. And then if anyone wants more involvement with Recycling Advocates, we are looking for more board members. Okay. So if you have, if you want to help with some of the long-term planning around what advocacy do we go after in the future, or you have want to be part of a board and get some of that experience,
right?
A leadership opportunity, a career development opportunity. We're looking for individuals to join. We're going to try to build out our board, and so if they can reach me through the website to express interest.
And you've got a Facebook page as well.
We do. We have an Instagram as well.
Perfect. Great.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Brion.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining me for my conversation with Brion Hurley, president of the nonprofit Recycling Advocates. If you've missed any of the previous podcasts, you can find them at our website at KINK.FM. Be sure to like and subscribe to Talking Trash, a Green Tips podcast on Apple iTunes or wherever you're listening. Talking Trash is a podcast series featuring people in business, government, and nonprofits, and sometimes just regular folks in the Portland area and around Oregon who are having an impact in the world of sustainability.